We're at that point of the show where we're speaking to our jocks. We have Ashley with us. She's going to give us some great practical knowledge of how we can start to see clearly organizations that we want to support in the community. Ashley, thanks so much for being with us.
Excited.
So as we're talking about clarity, and I'm looking at this huge internet of nonprofits, how can I start, or what should I ask myself as I'm looking through these organizations to help me better see clearly, is this organization meeting or living their mission?
Yes, and I think when you're at that point, there will be things that have stood out when you're doing your research and you're wanting to become connected to something that's great, that's bigger than you, right? There will be things that stand out to you the most. And I think in the culmination of those things, it's now time to say, okay, now it's next steps. They resonate with me in a way that this one didn't. And how can I know that my gifts and my talents in connecting with them will be furthering that organization's mission? So now it's scheduling the one-on-one. You've read about them, you've heard what they do, you've gotten feedback from, community advocates, family, friends. Now it's actually scheduling that meeting to discuss in detail. Now I've heard a lot about you. Now I want you to explain it to me. I want it to be, very clear in terms of how you see with your community organization in this community, how it's furthering the mission of the organization. What has the impact been? Share a personal testimony with me. I want to hear that what I've read online or what I've read, in different newsletters and different things like that. Now I want to know what that looks like. So scheduling that face-to-face is very important at this time because now, one, you've connected to say, I want to know more about you. Now when you meet with them, have they read up on you and your gifts and the things that you've been able to execute along your journey? So the face-to-face is very important at this point.
And that's what I was going to ask you, is in that face-to-face, because the majority of human interaction is nonverbal.
Right.
So as we're talking about seeing clearly, and you're in that space, you're in that meeting, what are you looking for? You already elaborated on, do they know me?
Right.
But what else are you looking for during that conversation that should actually be shared with you? This isn't something that you need to pry.
Right.
You're an expert in this space, and you know nonprofits that talk a good game and don't execute, and you know those organizations that are executing and they don't have time to talk because they're doing the work.
Absolutely. In those conversations, you'll be able to see the authenticity. When an individual loves what they do, it's not seen as work. It is passion. It is something that is bigger than themselves. So when you're talking, you'll feel a connection or you'll feel like, ooh, I need to run out this door right now. Time is of the essence. For them to know that you're serious about becoming connected with them and how, in doing your research, now it's time for you to tell me those nuggets that I'll be able to take away to say, is this the right move or not? And so it will be in that conversation. You'll see it very, very clear. Is it coming across as if it's scripted? Or is it coming across as if bringing you on is going to add so much value to the organization because XYZ? So you'll see it in that conversation. It'll be very clear.
Right. And I think even to that point, the strongest sign, at least for me, would be an organization that doesn't necessarily need you.
Right.
They're inviting you to come along on their journey.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a space for at least the transition as you're going through those unknowns. Sometimes you don't have to pedal the bike. Sometimes you can ride on that bike.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Ashley, thank you so much for the practical advice. Is there anything in closing when we're talking about clarity and the ability to see clearly when you're vetting organizations, when you're really taking a sober look at your community? Is there any, final advice to give to that person who wants to affect change?
Being true to yourself. You owe yourself that accountability in your next season. And so being able to look through and having done your research and becoming connected, now, is this really what you want to do? Because there are a ton of causes out there to become connected to. You just have to make sure that you're true to yourself, because your next season will be one of fruit and being able to water those seeds that need to be watered. So be true to yourself.
Thank you.
Yes.